and welcome to just my most anticipated video yet. I am so excited to finally talk to you about these books. I am going to be in this video talking to you about my most anticipated releases for 2021 in the Indian publication sphere. So I'm going to be talking about fiction as well as translated fiction and non-fiction. I have a completely other video that's going to be coming out on non-fiction because holy shit, I really think that authors and publishers have been sitting at home in 2020 and just been like coming up with some amazing things for us in 2021, and I just so my one request is for you to please listen till the end. I do know that it sounds like as if I'm saying like, hey, just please like increase my views, but like no, not really. I just really think that all of these books sound absolutely spectacular, and I think that you'd want to hear of them as well. So I will put like timestamps and all of that down in the description for you to like follow and stuff like that. And yeah, before we begin, also I do want to say that I have tried to get the most amount of information about these books, and if I'm sounding vague, that's not because I'm trying to sound vague, but because I just don't really have too much of information. So whatever information I do have, I will share with you. But yeah, I am just so excited. All the books are going to be listed down below as well, but if you want to know what they are about, then you will have to listen to me. So there we go. We are going to be talking about 23 books today, out of which 12 are regular fiction books, and then the rest are all translated books, which, as I said, is a mix of both fiction and non-fiction. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Okay, let us begin. Before I begin, I feel like I need to thank all the publishers who gave me all of this information about the books that are coming up. I would not have been able to make this video without you, and thank you. So book number 1 is Whereabouts by Jhumpa, and I'm not even going to like pretend that I didn't put this as number 1 and like, oh, there's no like reason why, because Jhumpa is my fucking queen. Okay, like I love her. She can do no wrong in my eyes. I haven't seen a novel coming from her in a while now, and this is a novel, though it's a little hard to understand what it is about. It just says that it is the woman at the center wavers between status and movement, between the need to belong and the refusal to form lasting ties. I will link you to the Penguins like page where they talk about this, or like the Goodreads page down below, but honestly, like you can't really make out what this book is about from the summary, so I'm fine with that. Jhumpa Lahiri's prose is great. She wrote this in Italian and now has translated it to English because she's a fucking genius. So yeah, I will read this. It comes out in April 27th, and you best believe I will read this ASAP. The second book is The Last Queen by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, and this is coming out in Jan. Again, I am a fan of her works. I have really liked The Palace of Illusions. The other book that she came out with, which was The Forest of Enchantments, was nice, though like whatever, whatever, it's fine, it was still great. But I really like the way that she writes, and this book is about Jindan Kaur, who was the last queen of the Sikh Empire. So it follows true events, and it's basically fictionalized in her like idea of like how things would have gone. But essentially Jindan Kaur was like a very formidable woman. When her husband died, she her 5-year-old son had to take up and be the king, so she was like regent mother, I think. And she was the one who rallied the troops, who made sure that they fought against the British too. Thought that she was like this very formidable woman, and she was put into jail for like 13 years, and like kept away from her son, and just like it just seems like a book that I think will definitely have will put me in my fields, and I can't wait, because I really do think that Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni does a great job with like female characters. So I'm really excited about this one. The next book is also an author who surprisingly I have not read but heard absolutely stunning, amazing things about from all of my friends, and that is Ira Mukhoty. She originally writes a lot of like historical books in terms of like non-fiction. But this one is going to be a fiction or a novel, which is about Draupadi. So it's called The Song of Draupadi, and it is a reimagining of, and like just a tale of Draupadi, who was the queen in the epic of Mahabharat. And I've always been very fascinated with Draupadi as a character. And I just think that Ira Mukhoty would have done a lot of research, because that's what she does as a historical writer. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I look forward to seeing the fiction that she writes. So yeah. Moving on to something very, very different, very, very different, is Club You to Death by Anuja Chauhan. Anuja Chauhan is like the Sophie Kinsella of India, of sorts, like if I could, but like a good version, like a great version. Normally she writes romances and like women chick literature or whatever, but in this one she's written a thriller, which is about a death in high society Delhi, where a hunky personal trainer is found murdered. So and there's like this ACP Bhavani Singh who is coming to solve the murder or something. But just knowing Anuja Chauhan and like the way that she writes and all of that sort of stuff, I think that it'll be a really fun read. And yeah, I just really look forward to that. The next book is How to Kidnap the Rich by Rahul Raina. And this is a book that is not being released by Harper India, but like internationally in the UK, I think. But I found the idea of it just so interesting. So it follows Ramesh Kumar, who takes an entrance exam on behalf of like a dim-witted like rich kid, essentially, and he somehow scores like all India rank 1. And then essentially like it propels this dim-witted rich kid to like the limelight, and Ramesh is just like, okay, how can I like take advantage of this? But during that situation they get kidnapped, and then he becomes the kidnapper. I'm not too sure again, and I will link you to the Goodreads like page down below, but this just sounded like a fun messy time, and I just really look forward to reading it. It is a debut novel, so I don't know how it will pan out, but I just think that the concept sounds so interesting. So yeah, I definitely want to read that. And then sticking to murder mystery sort of themes is Murder at the Mushaira by Raza Mir. And a Mushaira is essentially like a poetic symposium where people go like va 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 va. So I'm hoping I go va 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 at this one, but like let's see. This is essentially a murder mystery, piece of literary fiction and historical fiction, which is reminiscent of Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, and that is literally all the information that I have. But just it sounds cool. Like there aren't too many great like murders that happen. I mean, like good murder fiction that happens in India. So I look forward to reading this one to see how it goes. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Okay, the next one is a book by Jerry Pinto, and I absolutely love Jerry Pinto. He is a great novelist who's written one of my favorite books called M in the Big Whom, but also a wonderful translator, and there are a few translations coming up by him, so which sound fucking amazing. So like check that out. But this one is called The Loves of Yuri, and I will read out what it says. It says, a funny, heartbreaking, unforgettable novel about friendship and first loves and the great city of Bombay, set in the 1980s. This is the first of a trilogy of novels that trace the emotional and intellectual journey of the protagonist Yuri from early adolescence to late youth. And so I'm assuming it's like young adult-ish, but like I will read anything Jerry Pinto, right? So honestly, like, yeah. The next one I have such high hopes for because it just sounds so good. Okay. And this is The Garden of Heaven by Madhulika Liddle. And this is the first book of a quartet in Delhi from the which goes from the 12th century to 1947. And it basically follows like interconnected families, which is something which I love. And this book is will start in 1398 when Taimur attacked Delhi, and will follow many generations of interconnected families with mixing fictitious people with real life personalities. And holy shit, I absolutely love the idea of that. I have such high hopes with this book and this quartet in general. I feel like it could be, if done well, my next favorite thing in the entire world. So I am so excited. I have no idea when this is coming out, but like, you best believe I will read this ASAP. The next book is China Room by Sanjeev Sahota, and Sanjeev Sahota is a person who has written a lot of books before, and I have read one or two of his books. I'm not too sure, but this one is historical fiction inspired by his family, which is set in Punjab in 1929, and this essentially follows three women who are married off to three brothers of the same family, but they are kept like separately, and they are allowed to like converse only in the China room, whereas there is one person called Meher who tries to figure out who her husband is because they're kept apart, and then when she does that, she kind of does something that puts everyone's life at risk. So it says it is a multi-generational novel of love, oppression, and the pursuit of freedom. And yeah, that just sounds great. I think that's like, if you're seeing this, I you realize that I just really like multi-generational stories. So this is like a theme of books that I've chosen, and if you like them too, then great, we will get along. The next one is a book called Gods and Ends by Lindsay Periera. And this is about a Roman Catholic suburb in Bombay, and it follows people's lives from the 1960s to the 1990s. And I don't know, it's based out of Bombay. And I just I like, again, as I literally just said, interconnected, intergenerational stories, just like, yes, I am excited. So that one. The next two are books that I'm actually like super excited for, because they are both short story collections, I think. But the first one is The Tombstone in My Garden by Temsula Ao. Temsula Ao is one of the biggest literary voices from the Northeast, and specifically from Nagaland. And this is a collection of short stories from the region. So yeah, I definitely want to read more from the Northeast, and from more parts of India. And Temsula Ao is a huge name, so I definitely think that this will be a great book. And again, I have no idea when this comes out, but I will let you know. For all information, I will definitely keep you posted on my Instagram. So make sure that you're following me there and stuff like that. But yeah. And then the last book in the fiction category, and then we move on to translated, is Voices from the Lost Horizon by Anvita Abbi. And this is really interesting because this comes from the Andamans. So basically, there is a person, Anvita Abbi is a professor, and she went and spoke to like the tribes of within the Andaman, and yeah, so these are songs and stories from tribes in the Andaman, and it comes with audio audio and video stories to retain the originality and orality of the narratives. And I don't know how that will happen, but like, I'm just really excited to read about a book from the Andaman, because I don't think I have read a book like that ever before in my life. And I just think that that sounds really cool, to have these voices come from there. So yeah, that is the 12th book. And now we move on to translated. And holy shit, you guys, I'm just like so excited about all of these books. So if you, I will before that plug myself just a little bit. So I do this thing called Lit with Indian Lit, which is an initiative that I started about like almost 4 years ago now, where I encourage people to read a lot of translated Indian literature, which is why I particularly look for a lot of translated Indian literature as well. So yeah, so if you do want to know more about translated Indian literature, then follow the hashtag, and just me in general as well, like, you know. But there are so many people who talk about such great literature. It was previously called Lit with Regional Lit, and then became Lit with Indian Lit because we rebranded. But yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about some translated literature here, which just sounds so good. Oh my god. Okay. How many times have I said so good? I don't even know. Okay, the 13th book, but the first book in the translated bit is The Collective Stories of Imayam, which is translated by Imayam, which is translated by Padma Narayanan. And Imayam is one of the foremost and best-selling Dalit writers in Tamil, closely associated with the Dravidian movement and its politics. This collection brings together his selected short fiction in English for the first time. So I did say that I want to read more Dalit fiction as well this year, and I did say that I want to read more translated fiction this year as well. So like, this is just combining the best of both worlds, and I'm very excited about this one. The next book is also a collection of short stories, and this is called A Red-Necked Green Bird by Ambai. Ambai is a very celebrated author. Her name is C.S. Lakshmi, and she's known as a pen name as Ambai, and she's written a lot of short fiction, some of them being In a Forest a Deer, A Night with Black Spider, and like, yeah, so this is a collection of another collection of short stories written by her, and I think that it would be amazing. Holy shit. Okay, the next one, ladies and gents, oh my god, sounds so good. I have never come across a book like this in like the Indian sphere, and if you have and I have missed out on it, please let me know. But this book is called The Battlefield by Vishram Bedekar, which is translated by my favorite Jerry Pinto, and I will read out what it is, but it is World War II related, set in India, like on a ship. Wait, I will tell you. So primarily set on a ship, Battlefield is a tragic love story between Herta, a Jew escaping Hitler's Germany, and Chakradhar Vishwans, a Marathi man returning from England to India. A chance encounter between Herta, rejected for her race, and Chakradhar, insulted for his skin color, leads them to finding solace and love in each other. But when Chakradhar disembarks in India and Herta can't, the separation is tragic and moving. Originally published in 1939 in Marathi as Run Angan Battlefield, it is a rousing investigation of nationality and belonging in a world on the brink of World War II. Excuse me? What? This book. I mean, I will give a lot of money to read this book. It just sounds so good. I especially said that I did want to read a lot more of like World War II stories set in other countries apart from, like, you know, the usual, which is Britain and like Germany and stuff like that. So this is just answering all of my prayers. I'm so excited. Okay. The next book is Thinai by Ari Gottlieb, and this is a book which is actually translated from French, so not really Indian translated, but it is set in Pondicherry in the 1970s. And let me tell you what it is. I will read it out because I think it does a better job. So it is set in the 1970s in the working class district of Pondicherry, and it says it is a place of commonplace tragedies, alcoholism, poverty, and violence, and stubborn, absurd hope. Life in the quiet Kurusupakam is quickly overturned with the arrival of a newcomer, Gilbert Tata, a wizening Frenchman. Settling down on the porch, the Tinai of the home of a 10-year-old narrator, Tata begins to earn his keep by recounting the epic tale of the rise and fall of his family fortunes from the arrival on India shores on diamond trading merchants in the 17th century to the exploration of coolie laborers sent to the Caribbean. Um, so yeah, this just I'm very fascinated by this. I don't think I've read a book from a Frenchman's perspective of like living in India during the rule, that time that they ruled over Pondicherry, because Pondicherry is my favorite place in the world. But yeah, I've just not read a book like this, so I am very, very intrigued to find out more. And this is what I love about historical fiction as well, right? Like, it tells you about the history of the world, but also through like personal anecdotes. And that's what gets me excited. um the next book is As Boundaries Break by Srilal Shukla, who is the same author as Rag Darbari, which is a very famous novel. So this is another novel of this person called Durga Das, who is an ordinary businessman from Delhi who's apprehended for murder, and the people that he leaves behind, his friends and family, are left to deal with the psychological aftermath. As Boundaries Break follows the tumult of ordinary people coming to terms with their desires and learning about their own power and helplessness against the circumstances and the will of others. So, yeah, I think that this promises to be a great read. I hope that it is more of like a study on characters and people. So, yeah, let's see. Uh, the next book, which is the 18th book, but the sixth book within this thingy, is The Book of Passing Shadows by C.V. Balakrishnan, which is translated by T.M. Yesudesan. The previous book, by the way, is translated by Niyati Bafna. And yeah, so this is set in a Malabar village of Christian settlers, and it is translated from Malayalam, which tells the story of a family's fall from grace and their journey to redemption. And again, family stories, familial stories, multi-generational stories. What is new? Please tell me. But it just sounds amazing. So yes, it is. I'm excited. All right, the next three books. I would first like to shout out Arunava Sinha, who is India's foremost translator in terms of like Bengali fiction, or just Bengali translations in general. And he very nicely and very sweetly sent me like a 10-minute long voice note explaining all of these books that are coming out. He also talked to me about some other books that are not yet like the publishers haven't spoken about them just yet, so I'm not going to talk about them now, but I will talk about them later. There are three books by Arunava Sinha, translated by Arunava Sinha, that I'm going to talk about now. So with two of them being fiction and one being non-fiction, and that will start our non-fiction journey. But I just needed to shout out Arunava Sinha. You are awesome, sir. And thank you for doing what you do. But the first book, holy shit, I'm so excited for. It is called Khwab Nama, or The Book of Dreams by Akhtar Uzman Ilyas. And this is a Bangladeshi author who apparently has written just two novels. But those two novels that he wrote have propelled him to like superstardom. But this is Arunava Sinha said that it is one of his most complicated translations, and to call it extraordinary would be an understatement. So yes, please. He also very reluctantly but for us to understand, compared it to 100 Years of Solitude, which is a Knots book, but essentially it is a combination of historical, magical realism, partition, and a story of hunger more than anything else. He also said that it is set in undivided India and then divided India in the northern part of Bengal, which then moved to Bangladesh. And yeah, just by all of that, just sounds amazing. I cannot wait to read this. I don't know exactly when it is coming out, but I will let you know for sure, 100%. So excited. Holy shit. Oh my god. Wow. The next book is Caste or The Sickle by Anita Agnihotri, and this is coming out in Feb and March. And I think that this book is really interesting because it is set in Maharashtra but written in Bengali, and then translated to English, thanks to Arunavasana. Anyway, point is that this novel is apparently a novel that's not structured like a regular novel, but it's in fact a collage of different stories that are set in Maharashtra, which cover the topics of farming, farm laborers, debt, suicide, female infanticide, drought, famine, activism, and they all kind of connect together during a farmers' march that happened. Um, and yeah, I just think that that sounds amazing. It also seems very like connected to recent times where like the farmers are going on strike, so I just think that it will be very relevant. But also I'm just very intrigued by how all of these stories will come together, because I just again really like short stories that are apparently like all interconnected, and I just really like to see how that can be done. So yeah, that's that. And now we move on to non-fiction, and I have three in this, but again I will talk to you first about An Educated Woman in Prostitution by Mananda Devi. And this is very interesting. So it is set in 1929, or it was written in 1929, and basically follows the years prior. But it is about an upper middle class woman who was seduced by a distant member of the family, and they were on the run. But the lady gets pregnant and is then abandoned by the man. So she returns back to Calcutta, but because like her family doesn't take her in, and she has no way to kind of make a living at that point of time, especially, so she decides to get into prostitution by choice, because that was the only way she could do anything. And yeah, so that's basically what it is. But Arunava said that it bears the hypocrisies of society, and it is a memoir. But yeah, what he says that what it could be, and there are like these theories where that it is not just about her life, but an amalgamation of various people who she knows. So I think that that is really interesting. I think that it will be a very difficult read, but a very important read. And I'm just like very intrigued by that in general. So, yeah, we're on the last two books, and this book just sounds so good. I cannot wait for it to be in my hands. And this is called I Haven't Seen Mandu by Swadesh Deepak, and it is translated by Jerry Pinto. And this is a memoir about the author talking about him dealing with being bipolar, and it was written after a long spell of like psychosis, of bipolar psychosis that he went through. And it is, as I will quote, it says, harrowing and yet hypnotic. It is the most revealing and powerful first person accounts of mental illness. And I am just so excited about this one. I think that again this one will be a very difficult read, but I think that it will be a rewarding one. And I just can't wait. It's yes. And then the last book, which is definitely not going to be the last in general, because I know that there are going to be so many other books that come out this year, and I will definitely be talking about all of them. So, but yeah, these are just a few that I know. But the 23rd book is Dead Men Tell Tales by Dr. B. Uma Dhanathan, and it is translated by Priya Nair, and it is about the Sherlock Holmes of Kerala. So he is essentially basically like a forensic scientist, and he did a lot of like he talks about forensic science, and also like essentially he was like the forensic surgeon that investigated a lot of like shady shit that happened in Kerala over the years, right? And essentially he talks about some of the most sensational cases that he's had, and yeah, that's basically it. I just think that forensic science in general, like, I don't know, like, I love watching those TV series. I mean, not like CID, but you know. So yeah, so I'm just really intrigued by this real life person who has done some of these cool things and investigated people's murders and deaths and like all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, so I'm just intrigued to know about this book, and it was apparently a bestseller in Kerala in Malayalam. So yeah, okay, so that is the end of my 23 books in fiction as well as translated fiction and non-fiction. In tomorrow's video, I am going to be talking about non-fiction books, and holy shit, there are so many amazing non-fiction books that are coming out through the Indian publication sphere. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. But thank you so much for watching. I don't know if this is a long video or not. I will edit and find out. But if you liked it, do hit the like button. Comment down below if you think I have missed out on any book. If there is any book that you wish to pick up. And yes, I will see you tomorrow in my last anticipated reads video, and I have also spoken about a lot of my international releases in my previous videos, so you know, just I will link all of that. And okay, bye.